Hi there, my name is Donovan, and welcome to my presentation on semi-structured interviews. So what is a semi-structured interview? Well, it's an interview approach where the interviewer identifies a list of questions to ask an individual. These questions can go in any order. So for example, if you've got a list of 10 questions, question number 8 might be answered before question number 2. And it kind of aids in this conversational approach where whatever comes naturally, you'll be able to address those questions within the interview. Questions should be open-ended, so your who, what, when, where, why questions. And the predetermined questions should follow some sort of theme, or they should connect to the content that you're trying to find more information about, so maybe about a program. Whereas the follow-up questions, they might not be pre-planned. They might be in the moment, and you might ask a question in order to gain more information, as the answer provided might not have been super clear. So you'll ask that follow-up improvised question in the moment. And semi-structured interviews work best after some other data collection has occurred. So maybe an observation or maybe a survey for quantitative data as an example. So how does a semi-structured interview differ from an unstructured interview? Well, in a semi-structured interview, some of the questions are planned ahead of time, whereas in an unstructured interview, none of the questions are planned ahead of time. Further, in a semi-structured interview, both the interviewer and the interviewee kind of guide the conversation, and the interviewer is able to provide some response in that through questions, or might just give some sort of nonverbal response to the individual. Whereas in an unstructured interview, the interviewee pretty much guides the conversation. They're free to answer or talk about a topic as much or as little as they want. So they might not answer a question at all. But this contrasts an unstructured interview because the interviewee needs to answer the question to at least some extent. And typically in an unstructured interview, the interviewer and interviewee have to have knowledge on the topic or program, whereas in an unstructured interview, the interviewee has most of the knowledge on that topic. So the interviewer might not have as much knowledge on the particular program. So what are the benefits and disadvantages of semi-structured interviews? Well, the benefits are it's great for needs analysis. You're going to be able to figure out where participants are in comparison to the expectation for the program that they're participating in. And it's also great to get feedback from the individual or the interviewee, because they're going to be more free to share their thoughts on a particular topic, especially in that conversational approach, whereas that might not happen in a survey or a focus group, where some individuals might be a little bit shyer and they don't want to share as much. So the conversational approach is really great for stakeholder feedback. And in addition, with semi-structured interviews, you're allowed to dig deeper and improvise questions in the moment. Some disadvantages, though, are that interviews require a lot of time, and because of that time and then having to transcribe the interviews later on, you're not going to be able to get a lot of individuals to participate. It's just going to take a lot of time and money as a result. Further, the interviews themselves might cause contradictions. So you're going to have to go back into the field after conducting a first round of interviews and find information to either validate or disprove ideas shared in original interviews. And this might be due to the scope or knowledge that the interviewee has. So you have to be really careful in who you choose so that you know that you're getting the best picture you can. Conversations can also get off topic. And also with unstructured interviews, because some of those questions are improvised, you're not going to get uniform answers. Some conversations might lead to questions that are asked in maybe the first sets of interviews, but maybe later on you don't ask the same questions later on, and that might cause a lack of continuity. So how do you prepare? Well, you're going to identify the skills that the interviewer needs to have. You want them to be knowledgeable how to conduct it, but then the interviewee has to have a certain set of skills. So you're going to determine what those skills are. You're going to then determine the list of questions, followed by practicing those questions on maybe a sample set of individuals, and then taking that data back to stakeholders to kind of figure out which questions you want to stick with, or maybe you need to revise your questions before actually going and presenting them. And once you have that list, then you'll take them and present them to the interviewees. So here's a sample of a semi-structured interview paper, and this came from our Watkinson-West Myers readings, and you'll see that where the 1 is, these are the list of predetermined questions. Responses are indicated by the 2, and that's where you're going to write down what they say. And then you're going to ask some follow-up questions if needed. So you'll write the follow-up question where the 3 is, and then you'll actually write the response. And notice that you might not need to ask a follow-up question for each individual response. And so finally, some tips. Just be familiar with the content ahead of time. Make sure that the interviewee knows what you're going to discuss ahead of time. And also you might want to have the interviewee's permission to record the conversation so that you can go back and transcribe it or identify themes upon your analysis. Or you might want to have a second interviewer in the room to record the conversation. Here are my references for this presentation. Thank you so much.